Greetings, my friends. Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called, I'm told to clean the table when I'm not on, and I end up teaching a guy some manners. Here's the cast. There's me, take a wild guess, Hispanic guy. This is a bit of a different kind of I don't work here lady story, considering I did work here, but the circumstances make it so I couldn't at the time. So, long time ago, I worked at Denny's, most underappreciated, overworking, underpaying job ever. Glad I left when I did, as a services assistant. This basically means I'm the janitor and the dishwasher. The work itself was okay, and I was friends with the majority of my coworkers, but the hours were terrible. Pitch black morning hours and being on call. And I eventually had fewer than 20 a week, so I left when I found a new job. As is part of my expected job duties, I am supposed to clear tables with a tote and spray it off with disinfectant, cleaning it as needed as well. This is actually very much the waiting staff's job, and they are supposed to do it. But that part of the job got shuffled down to us because, I don't know, work more and let the waiting staff get the tips for our work? Anyway, there was this Hispanic guy with glasses who would come in just about every day with a man in a wheelchair in tow. Not sure if they were friends or he was the caretaker or what, but the wheelchair guy had a favorite table that he wanted just about always. And anytime the table wasn't clear or looked shiny, the Hispanic guy would walk up to an employee, often going behind the breakfast bar, and even one time behind the doors to the kitchen, which is not allowed and a severe danger if you're not wearing non-slip shoes, and demand that we clean the favorite table at once, even if he was going to be sent to another table. Nuh-uh. This table, every time. Shiny and perfect, or no tip to anyone. My nose is stuffy, hold on. Alright, I'm back. Anyway, I did what I could to keep up on all tables, making sure they were clean and sprayed off before people would be sat there. But often enough, the charming Hispanic man and his friend in the wheelchair would enter when I was on a break or lunch hour. And I would usually spend my lunch break with my apron, name tag, and cap off, sitting at a chair at this small breakfast bar in the corner, whether I was eating, playing on my phone, or just enjoying the sensation of being off my feet for a bit. As a result, I still looked like an employee, despite the obvious lack of a uniform, and that I was not working at the moment, albeit a lazy one. So, this would happen if the table was not clean. The Hispanic guy and wheelchair man came in, and I was on break. He'd straight up walk over to me and put his hands on his hips, clear his throat, and widen his eyes when he made eye contact with me. This is just one of the ways these exchanges would go. Looking up from my phone, often while eating. Yes? Our table is not clean. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I can see about getting someone to come over and... You'll do it. Now. I'm afraid I can't, sir. Sure you can. We don't have all day. I'm on my lunch break. When that is the case, I won't work. Not because I don't want to, I'm not legally allowed to. Oh, please. You're not on break. You just don't want to work. I actually am on my break. Labor laws dictate that I can get in trouble if I work on my break. I've offered to take time out of my break to flag someone down for you. Just clean the table for us. We need to eat. I point to another corner of the restaurant. There's a waiter over there. He'll help you. As I said, I can't work right now. Why can't you just clean the table for us? It takes like 1 minute. This is something I've actually told him at one point. Not caring anymore about his feelings, I say. Even if I could clean the table for you on my break, that would mean less time for my break. And I don't really appreciate being told I am lazy and how to do my job. In the amount of time it has taken for you to hound me about cleaning this table for you, you could have flagged someone else down and you'd have likely gotten your drinks by now. I've pointed out a waiter for you. If you are insistent on getting that specific table, you'll have to reach out to him and ask him. Hispanic guy smirks as he pulls out what he thinks is his trump card. I'll be sure to let your manager know about this. I invite you to. He then scoffs, realizing his threat didn't bully me into being his butler. Oh, I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I see him wander off to seek someone else. He had told a manager, but I was off the hook since he rarely ever waited to be seated when people were supposed to, and I was one of the higher service assistants at the time. That's not even the worst he's done. That's just an example. At one point, I was off my shift and waiting for someone to pick me up for a movie after I got off. It was somewhat busy, so more than half the restaurant was full with customers. I sat in the breakfast bar, uniform completely off, and a set of street clothes in its place. I was munching on a quick appetizer I bought with my discount since I hadn't eaten for a while messing around on my phone. And who should walk in but my #1 fan and his friend in a wheelchair. His favorite table was taken at the time though, so he uncomfortably waited at the entrance for the table to vacate. As he was waiting, he and I caught eye contact. Remember, at this time, I'm wearing attire that is not the uniform and there is no reason to think I am. Working, I'm assuming. Far as my managers and labor law was concerned, I was a customer like any other right now. The moment the table was vacant, he would, of course, take his buddy in the wheelchair and dart for the table. But of course, the dirty plates and stuff were still on the table since a waiter hadn't gotten to the table yet. And the second he realized it, guess who he approached to ask to clean it for him? I was already mentally preparing myself to be insulted and then tattled on to a manager. I decided to ignore him. I was in no mood for his disrespect. Hey, I ignore him. Hey, you! Still ignoring him. Excuse me! Actually tapped my shoulder hard with his finger. I reluctantly face him, with my teeth gritting from him actually getting physical. What? Our table needs to be cleaned! I decided to take a more arrogant approach this time since I wasn't actually on the clock. I'm sure there are some waiters that would be happy to clean it off for you as soon as they get a chance. See if you can flag one down. Clean our table for us! I'm not on right now. I don't care if you're on your break or whatever. Clean it now! At this point, people were noticing and watching. I slowly turn and face him. I am not on right now! Just clean our table. I've got no time for this. I will not clean your table, since I am just a customer right now, same as you. And go ahead and report me to the manager. They will tell you to leave me alone since I am not an employee at the moment. But we need to eat. We're in a rush, and no one else will do it for us. You have to. That's really unfortunate. However, if you're in a rush and need to eat, there's a few convenience stores and fast food places down the street where you can get food quickly. And again, I am not working right now. I'm a customer. At this point, my ride arrived and I saw his car through the window. I took a last bite of my food and stood up to leave, but Hispanic guy tried to block my path. Hispanic guy starting to get desperate. Look, just clean our table. Please. I know you can. Oh, that's too bad. My ride actually just got here, hence why I am leaving. And for the last time, I'm not an employee right now. I stepped around him, having had enough. Should be it, right? Wrong. Hey! He actually grabs me by the back of my shirt collar and tries to yank me backwards. I should mention I am a green belt in Kung Fu. I know how to defend myself. Out of reflex, I stomp one foot behind me, spin to the left while putting my left arm behind me, twirling it in a circle to grab his wrist. At the same time, I used my right hand and put pressure on his upper arm while holding his wrist with my left hand and pushed it down. Basically, I caught his arm and was bending it against the elbow. He was startled by the move and sudden reflex and started squealing at the counter I just did. I let him go after I thought my point got across. After I let him go, he just looked at me with absolute bewilderment, like he thought I was crazy. Before he could get a manager to stop me from leaving, I was already out the door. The next time I came into work, I was met by my manager who was eager to discuss what happened that day. I explained that I was just acting in self-defense, and I only put his arm in that lock because he would not leave me alone and was demanding that I work even when I was off. I also told him this was not the first time he tried to make me do that. At that, my manager seemed to calm down a bit, even though he did let me know that Hispanic guy had, in fact, tried to get the police involved. I told him that the camera should have picked up everything that happened and that he grabbed me first. Me locking his arm was done reflexively. He still told me to try and avoid physical contact with other customers in the restaurant, whether I am on duty or not. I understood and apologized for it. Ever since that day, whenever a Hispanic guy saw me, on duty or not, he would whisper to his buddy in the wheelchair but would steer clear of me. I was fine with that. Edit. Okay, some of you are on fire about a few things. Firstly, me calling him Hispanic guy is not meant to be racist or calling out Hispanics at all. I have Hispanic friends and my younger half-brother is Hispanic. I was merely being descriptive as to who he was. Secondly, me mentioning that I'm a green belt in Kung Fu halfway through the story as I'm describing the assault is not to sound like a badass. It was to give context as to how I knew how to perform the arm lock. Me doing it against a Hispanic man was also not at all about race. And to you who said green is mid-level, you're correct. If I wanted to sound badass, I would have said second-degree black belt. I've also taken other self-defense classes, high school wrestling, and used to spar in my local gym with a buddy of mine before the pandemic shut them down. But I didn't mention any of that either. Thirdly, telling me that I should have pressed charges against this guy for grabbing me, I didn't really care to, since that would label me, just as much of you are doing right now. And it seemed this guy just needed to be put in his place before he left me alone. Bringing the police into the matter would have just made this thing more complicated, and I don't really care for it. Lastly, this absolutely did happen. Some years ago, but it did. Me sharing it is not to bolster my ratings or improve my online image. I'm anonymous anyways, like 95% of people on Reddit nowadays. But to share a story about standing up for yourself and your rights as an employee of a workplace. I love how people get when you reveal facts about yourself.
Oh, he said he's a green belt in Kung Fu. He thinks he's badass? Oh yeah? One time, I accidentally stepped on a cockroach without knowing it with my bare foot, and I only screamed for 30 minutes. That's badass, not a green belt in Kung Fu.
And just so you know, that was actual hidden microphone audio stuff. And yeah, hidden from me, by me, just not very well because I'm talking into it. Alright, this story's called I Don't Work Here, I Live Here! A simple reverse to the I Don't Work Here Lady. More than 10 years ago, my partner and I ran our design business out of an old warehouse converted to live workspaces. We leased one space to live and another for our business with a third partner and 2 employees. The landlord who converted the space, wanting to give back to the area, created a large dance performing and practice space. A small dance company picked up the lease and rented out the space when they weren't using it. This created more than a few problems between the dancers and the live work tenants. Dance Karens and Kevins and musicians would pay their $15 for an hour or two, believing they had the right to be as loud or obnoxious as they wished, ignoring the fact that the live work tenants paid between $1,500 and $2,500 a month for a nice place to live and or work. Dancers would strip naked in the hallway and change into their dance clothes before going in the studio space. We were told often, just as we walked in the door, to be quiet, there is a performance underway. I can't tell you how often we would walk down to the laundry room to find grungy, skid-marked underwear and clothes in piles outside the studio door. As mentioned above, we had 2 spaces. We lived directly above the building's lobby, and our workspace was directly above the dance studio. I'm a fairly easygoing bloke, as I believe most large men are, think Great Danes. I have never thrown a fist in anger or even been in a fight. My size might have a lot to do with that, but I have always preferred talking out disputes. Well, one evening, around 9 or so, our partner was working late while we had retired to our living space. This evening was particularly noisy. Drums and dance sticks pounding out staccato rhythm to oppressively loud music. Our partner isn't as easygoing as I, and I knew it had to be even louder in the design studio. It wasn't long before I heard him take a rubber mallet to the floor and add his own pattern to the tumult. He'd done it before. I don't think it hurts to give noisy folks a reminder that they aren't the only ones in the world, but I prefer to do it gently, in person. As I sat on the couch, pretending to be able to hear the news, an unknown dance Kevin threw our door open, stalked up to my wife, and started yelling about how they paid their $15 and they could do whatever they want. I sat and waited for the first break, and with a little bit of a raised voice said, "You just broke into a private residence." Dance Kevin started in again, so I raised my voice again and repeated the statement as I stood up. He stopped mid-rant, took a look around, and immediately started to back up. The apologies started as he fumbled with the knob. I got out one more, "This is my private residence," before he ducked out of the door. I then locked the door. Yeah, it should have been locked all along. The music was off and quiet within 2 minutes, and we never saw him again. My wife went over to see if she needed to mop up anything. There were many other incidents between Dance Kevins and tenants, but this seemed to be the beginning of the end. Within a year, the dance space was converted to more live workspace. It provided higher rent for the landlord and got rid of a lot of problems. Long story short, Dance Kevin angrily bursts into a private residence, turns tail, and runs away. Yo, skid marks? You see, they piqued my interest when they mentioned, the naked dancers, because obviously, and then they mentioned the skid marks. And then I was really interested. I'm kidding, obviously. Geez, I hate that I have to clarify that. But wow, that's quite the tale there of dancing Karens and Kevins. That was such a funny name. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and make sure you check out Daily Dose of Memes in the description down below. And the name is a lie, but frequent-ish dose of memes does not sound nearly as catchy as Daily Dose of Memes. They're both very beautifully generic. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.